Hey everyone, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy the audiobooks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support us further, consider becoming a Patreon member. As a member, you'll gain the ability to request the next part of a novel audiobook I've uploaded, depending on your Patreon tier.
So I'm dead. Well, that is to be expected when you get shot in the lungs. I am not the narrator here, but I'd like to give you a little filler before we continue with my passage to the underworld. I am Rio, a normal high school kid, but I've always had the worst luck possible. I sometimes feel like my bad luck has been intentional, maybe Lady Luck hated my guts for some reason. That terrible luck is the reason I suddenly got shot by a robber at night. And it wasn't even my house that got robbed, it was 5 houses away. Yet they just had to pass by me when I stepped outside. I normally wake up at night and take in some air outside. It had become what I would call a ritual. While I was carrying out my ritual last night, the robbers came running through. One of them sighted me, and before I could say or do anything, the sound of a gunshot resounded, and a bullet dug into my chest and lungs, killing me in seconds. And that brings us to the current situation I'm in. Rio's eyes opened, and he took a look around the place he was in. He half expected to see 2 gates, one leading to paradise and one to the abyss or something like that, but none of that happened. He was inside a cozy living room. It was warm and kept to a minimalistic decoration. There was a long couch opposite Rio, and seated there was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her skin was as white and soft as silk, without a blemish or scar. She wore a beautiful black dress that matched her jet black shiny hair. Her eyes were like the starry skies, a void that held endless mysteries. Rio felt his chest tighten as he looked at her. He felt as though he was drawn to her for some reason. Her presence gave off an aura that calmed and pulled him. Rio shook his head to clear his mind. He didn't have time to admire this woman, he had to understand what was going on. "Is this the underworld?" he asked, using all the composure and confidence he had. "No, it is not. This is my personal place," she spoke in a sweet, soothing voice. "Then who are you, and why am I here?" he asked her. "Well, I am a goddess," she said. "A goddess? Is this real, or are you toying with me?" Rio asked. He didn't have time to overreact to what she said. It was better that he just calmed down and listened to what she was saying. "Well, we are as real as anything, gods and goddesses. We exist for what is known as the balance, but all that aside, it is not the reason you are here. After you died, your soul was to go through the circle of rebirth. Your soul would be cleansed, and you would restart in another world with no memory of the life you had before. But I need your help, so I put in a word to those above, and they allowed me to take your soul," she explained. "Need my help? How?" "You're a goddess, what could I possibly have to give to you?" he asked. "We gods can't overly interfere with our worlds, so we need vessels. I want you to go to my world and help me there," she said. "I understand most of what you're saying, but I still don't understand what I'm supposed to help you do," Rio said. "Well, I can't tell you the details now, the reasons are also classified. Just know that you have to uncover the task I have for you." "Now I'm unsure about doing this," Rio said. "No need to be. There would be no point in playing you, I sincerely need your help," she said. Rio thought about all that she had said. There was no point in him refusing. He had already died, and she was giving him a chance to live again with his memories. Though he was skeptical about the whole task thing that she didn't reveal to him, it wasn't enough to stop him. "All right, there's nothing for me to lose at this point. I'll do it." "Good. Now I'll explain something quickly. Your powers in this new world will not be like those of a normal person because right now, you have the ability to make edits to your power." "Does that sound good?" she asked. "I just have one question. Can I get a summoner-type power? I watched some anime and read some novels, the summoning power always got me," Rio said. "I see. Well, if that is what you want, then you will awaken the ability to summon all races except humans," she said. "I understand. Is that all?" Rio asked. "No. The last part is receiving a legacy because you will need one to survive," she said, and suddenly 6 cards appeared and floated in front of Rio. "Legacy. What is a legacy?" Rio asked. A legacy is the inheritance left by a being that has left their world one way or another, she explained. So I get to pick one of the cards. But what about this blank card? Rio asked. That card is mostly part of the procedure in general. I don't advise it, but I have to put it there. The card is a gamble, where you let fate decide the legacy you will get. Right now, all the legacies that I have laid before you are A-ranked, but with that blank card, you could pull an F-rank or S-rank, she said. Rio understood the risk that he was taking, but for some reason, the card kept calling out to him. He looked at the goddess and spoke, I'll take the blank one. I know the risk, but still. She saw the resolution on his face and decided not to try to sway him. She let him take the card. Rio stretched out his hand and touched the blank card. You have gained SSS-Rank Dark Dragon Legacy. You have gained SSS Dark Dragon Legacy. The goddess stared in confusion at the screen and announcement. How is this possible? There had only ever been one other SSS-ranked legacy to enter my world. Her voice left the normal calm and entered a surprised pitch. Ray stood there looking. He felt as though he had just spent a lifetime of luck for this. He understood that there was S-rank, and farther that would come SS and then SSS. And after hearing the goddess react, he knew that indeed this was a big deal. But still, he had finally had some good luck, and that made him happy. I guess I just had good luck, he said. Putting it like that is an understatement, but let's leave that for now. You have surprisingly gotten an SSS-ranked legacy. And even thought this legacy is powerful, it will also have a huge drawback. Legacies change the character and though of a person, the stronger the legacy, the more the power of the legacy, the more you change. And from what I know, the Dark Dragon was a prideful being, and also very selfish. I don't know how you will become, but his character will definitely influence you. Rio listened to her closely. He understood what she was saying, but there was no point thinking about it much. He had already gotten the legacy. I understand, so now, is this all? He asked. Yes, but one last thing, your legacy will awaken 1 year after your birth, because your body needs at least some time to get ready. She said. I understand, so how do I get reborn? He asked. Follow me. She said and walked out of the room. He filled her into another room, where a portal was activated there. This is my personal rebirth gate. Gods have it for tykes like this, when they have to personally rebirth a soul. She explained. So I just walk through? He asked. Yes, you walk through and your journey begins. She replied. He walked to the gate and was about to walk in, but he turned back and looked at her. I never asked, what is your name? My name is Ophelia, please remember me. She flashed a smile. Rio nodded and walked through the portal, and his soul was transferred to a new world, where he would be reborn to start his mystery task for the goddess Ophelia. Underscore 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 underscore. The cry of a newborn baby filled the mansion. The Lord ran towards the room, expecting his second son, one that would carry his name like the first. As a duke, he was hailed and respected all through the lands. His status was second only to the king. He was also a very powerful mage, and that was a well-known fact. His first children, the twins, had also carried their father's blood. They had been born last year, and seeing how much of prodigies they were, he decided to have a second son as soon as possible. The Duke was a man of average build with jet black hair, neatly cut and arranged. His demeanor was a calm, yet serious one. He walked to the door of the room and pushed it open. Inside the room were several women helping his wife, and a medical mage as well. The medical mage was a middle-aged man with the baby in his hand, a little white-haired bundle of joy, the same color as his mother, who was exhausted on the bed. She was very beautiful, a woman that would be considered a world-class beauty on earth. But the air in the room was not one of celebration, it was heavy, and the faces of those that were inside held sadness. My lord, your son seems to lack your affinity for magic, I am sorry. The medical mage said with a downcast expression. The Duke didn't react to what was said, he simply looked at the medical mage and told him. My name will not be sullied, kill the child, he died at birth. The Duke said. Nobody there was slightly shocked by what the Duke said. They knew it would come to this as soon as the child came out without magical affinity. But the wife of the Duke raised her hand to draw the attention of the Duke. Please, my husband. He may not be the child you wanted, but he is still our son, we should at least give him a life. Why don't we give him to a family far away and pay them to take him as their son? We are the cause of his life, we should let him live. The Duke thought about what she said, he gave out a sigh and walked towards the door. Do as you please, but he should never been regarded as my son. The Duke said and left the room. Rio had been watching the whole thing, he was beyond shocked at what was happening. Day 1 of reincarnation and he was almost killed and now he was getting kicked out. His mother took him from the hands of the mage, she looked at him with teary eyes, yet sadness could not be hidden. Rio felt his chest tighten as she looked at him. He felt sad that he would have to leave this woman that obviously cared for him. His mother looked at one of the maids and handed Rio to her. His name is Silva, when you take him to the new family, tell them his name is Silva. The maid took the child, she bowed and left. And that night, she covered herself head to toe and went through the night. Rio, now Silva gazed at the mansion that would have been his home, but now was an enemy home. Just wait, I'll come back here one day, and I'll make my father pay dearly. The maid that carried him through the night, going outside the city to a small town via a nighttime carriage, and giving the child to a new family. A year had passed since Silva was brought to this new home, and so far he had fit in. His father was an adventurer in the town and was quite a good one. His mother was a mage, but she focused solely on healing magic, so people came to her for healing, and she got paid. His father's name was Leon, and his mum was Sarah. Both of them were good-looking, but they had jet black hair, which was a heavy contrast to Silva's hair. They also had 3 kids before Silva. The first was their eldest son, who was currently 4 years old, and the next were the twins, a boy and a girl who were 2 at the moment. Silva had quietly stayed in this house without causing a fuss. He was like the perfect child, so much so that it caused his mother to worry at times. She didn't understand how Silva was always calm and barely cried at all. She tried her best to understand Silva, but she came up with blanks at every turn, so she decided to take Silva as he was. Silva had waited for a year patiently, awaiting the day that his legacy would awaken. But he wasn't just sitting around in that time. He had slowly been gathering information about this world and also learning to read and understand the language as much as he could. Still, the information that he was able to get was minimal. He only found out that this town was Ribist, a small adventuring town. As for the language, he was able to understand when spoken to, but his reading was still basic. That was to be expected, since he didn't have access to reading materials. Silva was busy chilling in his crib, counting the minutes and hours as they went by, but then, today would be the last day of doing that. SSS-Rank Legacy awakened. Dark Dragon Legacy fully awakened. Beginning synchronization. Complete. Congratulations on becoming the spawn of the Dark Dragon. The Black Dragon Legacy increases all abilities and skills by 10x, including EXP gathering rate, SP rate. This effect stacks up after leveling up. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%. Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 10,000 x 10, 100,000. EXP * 0/100. SP * 100 by 10, 1000. Level * 1. Strength * 1 by 10, 10. Defense * 1 by 10, 10. Speed * 1 by 10, 10. Agility * 1 by 10, 10. Intelligence * 1 by 10, 10. Free stat points * 4 by 10, 40. Skills. Scale hardening LV1, cover yourself in Dark Dragon scales for 5 minutes, 200% increase to defense and strength, x10. Dragon Eyes LV1, see energy forms, lasts for 5 minutes, x10. Magic. Abyss magic, Gate of Hell, sacrifice your blood to open a powerful gate to consume the souls of your enemy. Effect multiplied by 10. Silva took his time to read through everything, and he came to one conclusion, and that was that the Dark Dragon Legacy was overpowered. He didn't know the exact way power worked here, but the effect of multiplying by 10 was something that would change everything. It seems that I am half dragon, but I can't use any dragon skills or abilities indefinitely. Even the scale hardening is for 5 minutes, but with the times 10 effect, it will last for 50 minutes, that's almost an hour. Silva decided to test this skill. He simply thought about it, and then black scales started covering his body, covering everywhere. Silva was happily admiring his scales, but then the door to the room opened, and he immediately called off the skill. His mother walked in and picked up Silva from his crib. She held him in her arms in a way that said she knew what she was doing. She kissed his forehead and then used healing magic on him. The soft glow soothed Silva. This was sort of her daily routine, ensuring that she treated him daily. Silva didn't understand how this woman could be so loving to someone that was not her real son. He understood that they were paid to care for him, but he could tell without a doubt that the love they showed was not bought. They cared for him like one of their own, even though he was obviously very different from the rest of the family. All this made Silva happy, and subconsciously, he had begun taking ownership of them. They were his. This was a character effect that came from the legacy, but it was too little for him to notice. He thought it was simply normal feelings and that was all. After she healed him, she took him outside in her arms. She got a chair and placed it at the entrance and sat with him. Their house was a little removed from the main town, so there were few houses around them. His parents had chosen this side because his mother loved the quiet. She wanted to minimize the noise as much as possible. Silva looked at the surroundings that were to be his home from now on, and he started planning on what he would do. His first task would be to become the strongest adventurer in this town. That would lead to some good recognition that would help him gain more things like knowledge and strength. His mother later took him inside. She took a book from her shelf about the way magic worked, but Silva snatched it from her. She tried to get it back, but he refused, so she placed him down and opened the book for him. Silva began to seriously read the book, though his mother thought he was playing, but she let him be. But after that day, Silva would bother her day after day, asking for books with his limited vocabulary. The rate at which he consumed the books was outstanding, and his mind stats shot up. After he became 3 and was a whole lot more fluent, his parents tagged him as a genius because of how well he read and wrote at that age. For Silva, he discovered that even reading like this was giving him EXP. Whenever he conquered a harder subject, he would get EXP, and with the 10x effect, he had steadily risen to level 5, with enough stat points to distribute and system points to spend. Years passed, and Silva was now 5. He had grown up to be the perfect anime isekai protagonist, the young genius who learned to walk and talk early and was already reading tons of books. His parents, though, didn't let him out of the house much, and the reason was because he was too unusual, his abilities and other stuff. Not to mention the fact that he didn't even look like them with his hair color and all that. All this had slowly made Silva detach from society, but he couldn't care less. He was happily living his days with the numerous books his dad had bought him. His level had risen by so much, and so had his skills, though he hadn't used them for much, but the 10x effect was raising him through the levels easily. Currently, his stats looked like this. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%, Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 120,000. EXP * 200/700. SP * 5,000. Level * 7. Strength * 40. Defense * 30. Speed * 50. Agility * 50. Intelligence * 60. Free stat points * 80. Skills. Scale hardening LV4, cover yourself in dark dragon scales for 5 minutes, 200% increase to defense and strength, x10. Dragon Eyes LV4, see energy forms, lasts for 5 minutes, x10. Speed comprehension LV2, x10. Magic. Abyss magic, Gate of Hell, sacrifice your blood to open a powerful gate to consume the souls of your enemies. Effect multiplied by 10. Consume, eat the soul or parts of the soul of any being to gain strength. His strength had grown by leaps and bounds, so much so that he was almost as strong as his father, and he was only 5. The way he knew that he was that strong was through the dragon eyes. When it leveled up to LV4, he was able to see the stats of others. His father was a level 20, specialized in swordsmanship, and had an average stat of 70. He didn't know if that was impressive or not, but he had seen his father train around the house, and so he knew that his father was quite strong. About the skill consume, Silva didn't know how he got it. He simply woke up one day, and the skill was there, and it looked very dreadful. It looked even more scary after he read the contents, the ability to eat the soul of a being to gain power. That sounded evil and overpowered, but he had come to accept all this because the SSS-Rank Legacy was the cause. I think it is time I start getting some action. I'll never know why she sent me to this world if I don't get started. Silva left his room, the one that he shared with his brothers. One of his brothers was now 9 years old, and the other was 6. Though none of them really talked to Silva all that much. The eldest one was engrossed in training and couldn't make the time for Silva, and the other one was simply being an ass. The reason for that was simply because his twin sister had taken a liking to Silva and doted on him to a very abnormal level. There had been times when Silva had to literally hide to get some alone time. He didn't hate her company, but there was always a limit to what he could take. As soon as he stepped out, his sister sprang up from the side and grabbed hold of Silva. "I've been waiting for a while now. Mom and Dad have made a birthday breakfast for you," she said in a jolly tone. "Leah, you seem more happy about it than I am," Silva said. "Well, that's because I'll get to feed you. I'll make sure you eat a whole lot. And also, I helped Mom out to make some of the food. I am eager for you to try them out," she said eagerly, pulling him to move. "I can feed myself, there is no need for you to feed me," Silva said. "Not happening, I'll die of depression if I miss this chance," she retorted. What does a 6-year-old even know about depression? Silva thought. He knew his sister and what she was like, and the fact that she would not allow him to resist until she had her way, so he gave in and walked to the dining room with her. The whole family was seated there waiting for Silva, the table filled with all sorts of food that they would normally not cook. But since it was his 5th birthday, they had to do it. His 2 brothers, Quinn, the eldest, and Mike, the second, were seated as well. When Mike saw Leah pulling Silva like that, a frown formed on his face. Silva noticed the frown. He knew that this issue would escalate one day, but he really didn't care. He didn't have the parental love he wanted in his past life because of his parents' jobs. Also, he didn't have siblings, and as such, was alone. But in this world, he had a sister that loved him so much that it was bordering on what was normal and what was not. Though she wasn't really his sister even in this world, he had come to accept her and all of them as his family. He just prayed that Mike wouldn't destroy all that out of anger. Just like she said, Leah fed Silva despite him wanting to refuse. He didn't understand why, but even though he was 10 times as strong as her, for some reason, he couldn't fight back. The scene made his mother and father smile. Quinn didn't care, he still had his emotionless face, but Mike was seething and trying to hide it with food. After they ate the birthday breakfast, Leah and her mum took the dishes away while the boys remained at the table with their father. "So now that you are 5, what do you want to do?" It is at this time that most people start choosing paths that will fit them, his father asked him. Silva thought for a moment, then answered him. "I'd like to try out my options, father, in magic, swordsmanship, and other things. So for now, I'll just see what I can do in all aspects, and the one that suits me will take the cake," Silva said with a little smile. Smart kid indeed. "All right, your mom is the only one with any amount of magical know-how, and I am the one with the sword. Though I am relatively weak, I can still teach you a bit," his father said. "Dad, you said you are weak. Can you explain to me?" "Because I think you are strong," Silva said. "That's a dumb assumption," Quinn looked up and said. His father nodded as well and then started explaining to Silva. "Listen closely, son. Everyone lives by levels and grows by levels. Our strength, skills, and abilities rise through leveling up. But leveling up is not that easy, especially for us commoners, because we most times lack what is called a legacy." Once Silva heard that word, his attention was fully drawn. He paid full attention to his father. Nobles, royals, and high-ranked people, most of the time, all have legacies. This legacy may be an inherited one passed down from generation to generation. This legacy normally allows them to level up faster and get stronger faster than normal. But that is not all there is. The second thing that makes them different is that the legacy they receive by inheritance will also mutate based on the person. So a person can receive his legacy, and his own body will change it and make it more powerful. That's why nobles and royals are already leagues above us. Commoners that manage to awaken a legacy are most of the time taken to academies run by the kingdom to train them. I'll let you in on a little secret, your sister Leah awakened a legacy. I still can't tell which it is, but it was verified by the city healer. He has the ability to appraise. She will one day leave us for greener pastures and surely surpass me and your mother by a margin that is very large. Silva was shocked to hear that his sister had a legacy. He had never used dragon eyes on her, hence he didn't know. Legacies also have levels, mostly known from F to A. I hear that you can only find A and B level legacies in the royal families. C is mostly found in the noble houses. I, your father, don't have one, and to top it off, all my abilities are average, so I am limited. I have been on level 20 for 3 years now with no signs of leveling up. It is possible that I may have reached my peak, but I don't want to accept that fact so easily, so I train and take on quests. But there are many levels beyond that little 20, far many levels. You can make it to level 100, and after that, you can undergo what is called evolution. I don't know much about it, because I have never met a person that has evolved, so my knowledge is limited, he explained. Silva was shocked. He didn't expect there would be this level of difference in strength. Looking at it now, his father was weak as hell. But still, his father struggled for the family to get stronger, and he could see that. He watched him train like there was no tomorrow, with little results to show for it. I'll do my best, father. I'll make sure that I reach the highest height, Silva said. Stupid, Mike said with a scoff. Quinn glanced at Silva but said nothing. All right, kid, tomorrow your mom will take you to test your magical affinities and other stuff, and maybe you will have a legacy, but don't get your hopes up, his father said and left the table. Quinn got up early, heading to go train, but Mike didn't move. He looked Silva dead in the eyes. You think you are better than me because you are smart? Mike asked. How the hell does a 6-year-old come to that conclusion? This world is very terrifying, Silva thought. I don't understand what you mean, brother, Silva played dumb. Don't mess with me. Mike snapped. Sheesh, take a chill pill, bro. Your tantrum will give me a headache. Still, I have to deal with this issue before things escalate. I am sorry if I have wronged you, brother Mike, and I beg your forgiveness, Silva said and bowed his head. He sincerely thought this would quell his brother's anger, even just a little bit. But what happened next was going to drive a rift between them so deep and large that their very existence would become a threat to each other. Mike stood up from his seat and walked to Silva, who was bowing. You think your fake apologies will trick me? Mike asked. He took the only ceramic bowl in the center of the table and smashed it on Silva's head. Silva was stunned by the sudden events. He had started bleeding from his head. He didn't know why Mike did that, but a sudden rage filled his heart. He immediately threw a punch, but at the last moment, he held back some of the power, yet still, the punch sent Mike flying through one of the chairs. The noise drew the attention of everyone in the house. They came in to see Mike on the ground, struggling to breathe on a pile of broken chairs. Silva was also on his knees with a bleeding head. Silva knew that if they came in and he was standing, they would not see him as a victim, so he went on his knees and held his head in pain. His father and Quinn quickly grabbed Mike from the ground, while his mother and Leah tended to Silva. Leah kept asking Silva if he was all right, with tears gathering in her eyes. Mike saw this scene, though it was blurry, and his hate grew deeper. Silva's mom was able to patch up the boys. Their wounds were not too bad, but they had to rest for the remainder of the day. Later that night, the two of them were called down to the living room. Their father, mother, Quinn, and Leah were there. I want to understand what led to that situation, and I want the truth from both of you, their father said, his tone serious. Mike had already started shaking. He knew that if the truth were to spill, he would be the one to receive most of the punishment. I was the cause, father. I started to tease brother Mike and took it too far. Something I said made him angry, and he hit me out of rage. And even though I was the cause, I still hit him back after he hit me, rather than just take the punishment for talking too much. I understand that what I did was wrong, and I should not have even retaliated after being the one to wrong him. So I beg you, don't take your anger out on him. I'll bear the punishment, Silva spoke up and explained the situation. He had decided that since Mike wanted a war, he would use a method that Mike wouldn't be able to counter, and that was reverse psychology. Normally, People would play the victim card to get out of situations, but what Silva was doing was playing the criminal card. Even though he did this, he would be labeled as the criminal, though he and the person would know that he wasn't. That person will, in turn, hate this because the person he hates is now saving his neck. The other thing that will come out of this is another opportunity. If anything should happen around Silva, and it is caused by Mike, or even if Mike was just around when it happens, that becomes the perfect time to merge the victim card and the criminal card, creating a whole new level of trickery, because when they are asked about what happened, Silva would just say that it was because he had hurt Mike all those days back, and Mike had taken his revenge. Then he will plead for them to forgive Mike, and all scores would be settled. At that point, Silva would have won because Mike would face a greater punishment than he was supposed to. His father will see him as an evil child that couldn't even forgive his brother after so long. That was the whole play, a plan that a 6-year-old like Mike could not possibly understand. It seems having high intelligence stats and past memories makes me some sort of mastermind. I think the legacy had something to do with this as well, Silva thought. He didn't have any hate towards Mike, but his pride had been stung by Mike. He felt like he had tried to make peace with Mike, but Mike shoved it away. When Mike did that, he felt his pride take a hit, and so, he decided to make Mike see how futile it was to fight him. He wanted to make sure Mike knew their difference. When his father heard what Silva said, a frown appeared on his face, but then it disappeared. Even if you are the one that instigated the whole thing, I will give equal punishment. Mike did not just retaliate, he gave you wounds that could have killed you. I can't allow that to slide. So starting tomorrow after you check your magical affinities with your mother, you will both have to split 20 pieces of wood for the next 3 days, his father gave his verdict. Silva didn't care about this sort of punishment. To him, it was nothing due to his strength, but he could see the dread etched into Mike's face. A kid like him splitting 20 pieces of wood every day for 3 days straight, that was a nightmare in the making. After the whole thing was settled, his father dismissed them. But he made one mistake, he didn't ask them to make up with one another. He forgot to read the lines that were clearly showing these two were not on good terms, and the longer it took to reconcile, the harder it would get. Night came, and it was almost time to go to bed. The boys were all in their room, not speaking to each other at all. Quinn was fiddling with a wooden sword, Silva was reading a book, and Mike was just at the side, seething with rage. Even though Silva had saved his neck, he hated it so much that he would have rather told the truth and taken the punishment. The thought of Silva saving him made his heart cry, but it was far too late to fix it now, the motion had been set. Knock, knock. The door opened, and Leah walked in. She walked as though she was in a rush, grabbed hold of Silva, and started pulling him out of the room. Wait, Leah, what's going on? Silva asked. I can't allow you to sleep in the same room with the person that tried to kill you, she said. At this point, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Leah. Leah, they both hurt each other, you shouldn't just take Silva's side, Quinn said. You know that's a lie, brother Quinn. I may not be capable of complex thoughts, but you know Silva would never cause any trouble. He is always trying to keep to himself, and that's what I love about him, Leah said, and then looked at her twin. All of them knew the meaning of that look, she was blaming Mike for what happened. Quinn didn't retort after that. He knew as well that it was very difficult for Silva to be the cause of this issue, but since Silva said it was him, what else could he have done? Fine, take him, Quinn said, and she dragged Silva out of the room. Quinn looked over at Mike. Mike was about to explode from rage. Quinn knew this was just the beginning. The next day, Silva and his mother headed out to the place of the medical mage. Though his mother was a healer, the medical mage in the town was the only one capable of casting appraisal. The place of the medical mage was towards the center of the town, which meant Silva and his mother had to pass through crowded locations. His mother was quite well known due to the fact that she healed people. It wasn't every time that they could afford the full treatment from the medical mage, and so Sarah would heal most things. As they passed through the town, people constantly greeted her, but not before looking at the child beside her. It was known that they had another son, and that he didn't look like the family, but now that they looked at him, they understood that it was not just that he didn't look like them, he was completely different. If not for the trust they had in Leon and Sarah, they would have certainly said that she was lying about him being their son, or maybe she had cheated on Leon and gave birth to him. Sarah and Silva were not oblivious to the looks they were getting, but they kept moving, and after a while, they finally arrived at the medical mage's shop. There were already people there carrying out their checkups and other things. Silva and his mother entered the shop as well and went to the waiting area. They sat down and waited for someone to come and attend to them. Sarah could have just walked into his office and gotten it done, but she would feel bad about getting ahead of people. For a time, she had worked with the mage, the two of them healing together, and they were basically partners. She stopped due to the fact that she had to take care of her ever-growing family. One of the apprentices walked out of the office of the mage. She was a dainty girl, with 2 pigtails. She looked no more than 14. When she saw Sarah, she ran up to her with an eager expression and admiration. You could tell that this girl looked up to Sarah. "Lady Sarah, I'm so glad to see you here," she said. "Same, Janeth. I wanted to get your boss to use appraisal on my son Silva," Sarah said. Janeth looked at the son she was talking about. She blinked for a moment after she saw him. "Hello, kid," she said, starting a conversation with Silva. She pronounced each word clearly so that Silva would understand. "I may be 5, but you don't need to overexert yourself for my understanding," Silva said. The way he spoke shocked Janeth. She looked at him closely. "Don't worry about him, Silva has always been different. He learned how to read before he was 2, comprehending complex words. Sometimes I wonder how his mind works, it's simply crazy," Sarah said with a smile. "I see," Janeth said, still glancing at Silva. She didn't know how to react to what she was hearing, a child reading that early. "Lady Sarah, why are you in the waiting room? You can easily walk in, you are an honorary member of this clinic." "I don't think there is anyone who would object to you cutting," Janeth said. "No, there is no need for that," Sarah tried to refuse, but Janeth grabbed her hand and started pulling her towards the office. Silva followed behind, watching his mother get pulled against her will. When they got into the office, the mage was just finishing a simple checkup on a woman. The woman was just leaving as they entered. The mage was a middle-aged man, but he looked quite well kept, his beard trimmed properly and his robes neat. When he saw Sarah, he got up from his seat and rushed to her, holding her hands and greeting her. "Lady Sarah, it's so good to see you here," he said. Silva noticed something about the way the mage greeted his mother, and that was the fact that there was a very heavy longing in the eyes of this man. He could tell that this man most definitely had some sort of feelings for his mother, but they were probably not reciprocated. He could see a deep sadness hidden behind that smile. Maybe it was due to his high intelligence or something, but he could see it. "It is good to see you, Luke. Seems you are still well," Sarah responded. Silva also noticed from his mom that she knew about the feelings of this Luke dude. He could tell. "It's been a year, you barely come this way anymore, and the work has not allowed me to visit," Luke said. "Well, it can't be avoided. The reason I came here today was to have you check the status of my son," Sarah said. As they spoke, Silva remembered something. His stats were abnormal, even he knew that a child his age should not have this type of stats. He had to hide them, or part of them somehow, but that would mean buying a skill, but the shop only opens after level 10. This would be problematic, but there was really nothing he could do now. He just hoped that his legacy would be hidden, or that the appraisal of this man would not be high enough. Yeah, it shouldn't, because it could not even tell what sort of legacy that Leah had, so he should be safe in that regard. "All right kid, come, and I'll check you," Luke said. Silva walked to him. Luke placed his hand on Silva's head, and then a light came from his hand. Luke froze after that. He shivered and drew his hand away from Silva. "What happened, Luke?" Sarah asked. He is level 7, and his average stat is around 40, Luke said, shocking Sarah and Janeth. "That's not all, he seems to have about 2 magical affinities or so. One is summoning magic, but I don't know the rest. The last thing is that, he has a legacy." Immediately after saying that, Sarah ran to the door and shut it tight. Her body simply moved on its own. She rushed back to Luke and eagerly began to ask him. "Are you certain about what you saw?" "My appraisal may not be high, but I can say for sure that it is true," Luke confirmed. "How can a kid have stats up to 40? That is like the stats for a normal grown adventurer," Janeth said. "It makes sense now. The other day he got into a fight, and when we came, his brother was thrown through a chair," Sarah said. "This is something beyond normal. For a kid to already be level 7, what could he have done to raise his level that much?" Luke asked. I am not sure, but he started reading since he was 1 and has been obsessively reading for the past years. Could it be that it was the reading that pushed his level that high? Sarah asked. It is not common, but very possible, and it would make sense. Though his strength doesn't make sense, maybe it is an effect of his legacy, Luke said. Silva had been watching them as they spoke. He didn't say anything and waited for them to calm down, and when they did, he spoke. Would it be troublesome for people to see my stats? He asked, though he knew the answer already. Indeed it is. If word of your stats at this age got out, and the fact that you have a legacy, you can kiss your family and life here goodbye. Even your sister, who came here with your mum last year, her information had to be hidden due to her legacy. And her stats were nowhere near yours, so do you get the picture? Luke asked. I think I understand it, Silva said. We have to find a way to hide his stats, Sarah said. He will need to learn the skill concealment, but that is very hard, just like appraisal. The best thing to do is to get an item that can hide his status from prying eyes, Luke suggested. I can get the skill. I am certain of it, Silva spoke. Luke wanted to tell him how hard that was, but Silva spoke again. This town only has one appraisal user, and that's you. I have several years to try and get the skill before I ever think of leaving this place. I think for the time being I am safe, so there is no need to worry. I plead with all of you here, Sir Luke and Miss Janeth, help me keep my secrets, Silva said and bowed his head. I don't know how you did it, Sarah, but this kid is amazing. He keeps surprising me in ways I don't comprehend, Luke said with a smile as he raised Silva's head up. Don't worry, kid, we will protect your secret. After all, your mum helped build this clinic. I owe her more than she knows, Luke said. Silva was relieved after he heard that, but now he had to seek out the skill like he promised. A skill was obtained in ways that no one understood. People just got them, some through training, and others just got it like that. When Silva said that he would get the skill, Sarah and Luke said nothing, but they knew that if he wasn't born with it, it would be near impossible. The best thing would be for them to get an item for him to conceal. After leaving the clinic, they headed home straight away. His mum rushed to tell his dad about what had happened. Silva, on the other hand, went to the back because today was the day he started his punishment. He looked at the heap of wood and realized that Mike had yet to start his punishment as well. He didn't care, though, and took the axe that had been prepared for them. It was smaller than normal to fit their child builds. He took the first piece of wood and set it on the platform for him. He took the first swing and cleanly cleaved it in half. This will be easier than I thought, Silva said before getting the next piece. It took him just under 30 minutes, with a few short breaks. After splitting 10 of the 21 pieces, he dropped the axe. He wasn't going to do more than he should, even if he could. He was about to head inside, but he came face to face with Mike. Mike paid him no heed, walked past Silva, but froze when he saw all the wood that had been split. Who did this for you? Mike asked. Silva paused and turned around. I did it myself, Silva said. Lies. I know when you and Mum returned. There is no way that you finished this in that time. You cheated your way out of this punishment. Admit it, Mike yelled. This 6-year-old surely knows how to talk a lot, Silva thought as he looked at his brother. Admit what? I did it myself, Silva said. You liar. Mike rushed at Silva with his axe raised, but when he saw Silva smiling, he quickly stopped in his tracks. If his rage had taken over him, he would have injured or killed his brother. That smile was simply Silva telling him that if you do that, I still win. I'm telling father. Mike resolved that telling was the best solution, so he ran inside after dropping the axe. This will be an issue. I may have to seriously fight my brother one day, maybe to the death. I don't want that, but he is being too unreasonable, Silva said. He walked into the house and headed to take a bath. He was quite sweaty. Later that day, Silva saw Mike splitting wood in the back with a face contorted in anger. It seems the plan to tell father didn't go as well as Mike had hoped. 3 days had passed, and both boys had successfully gone through their punishment. Leon, their father, started sword training for Silva and Mike. Quinn had already been far ahead when it came to training and was now a rank 10 after several years of training. His growth was fast compared to normal people, and his father had high hopes for him. Mike, on the other hand, was a level 3, a growth achieved just by growing up. He gathered experience by simply growing, so there was no training behind his level. The same could be said about Silva, he didn't have any physical training behind his leveling. Alright, for the next 5 years of your life, you both will train in the sword. It doesn't matter if you want to learn magic or anything else, you have to prove yourself with the sword first. If you ever want to learn magic, then in these 5 years that you will train, show me that you deserve to be heard, that your requests deserve to be considered, their father said. He took 2 wooden swords and handed them to them. He already knew about Silva's stats, but he didn't want to weaken Mike's spirit, so he kept that information away from the others. It would be a big blow to Mike's pride if his younger brother was several times stronger than him. He knew he wouldn't be able to keep this hidden for long because the difference would most likely show during their training, but he hoped that it would push Mike to go further when that happened. Alright, today you start with practice swings, you have to do it till the sunset, no breaks until dinner, Leon said. Mike wanted to complain about how insane the training was, but then he saw Silva already swinging, so he reluctantly started as well. Silva had been reading books for years now, but he was yet to get any action. His skills and magic had been dormant for all this time. He was eager to do something that involved combat, so he swung his sword without wasting any time. This motion continued for over an hour, and fatigue had started to set in slowly, especially for Mike. Sweat had started trickling down his face, and his face was getting contorted. Silva kept pushing, slashing downwards, and with every slash, his movements became smoother and more refined until finally. Sword Mastery LV1x10. As soon as that notification came through, his sword movement became 10 times better and faster. It was as though he was slicing through air, the sound of his sword cutting the air was crisp and sharp. His father, who had been watching, saw this change, and then he understood how naive he had been. Silva was not in the same league as Mike, his speed of growth was not something Mike would be able to overcome through determination. He just watched Silva transition from a novice to a better swordsman in an hour, while Mike was still struggling to breathe. Still, he decided to let it play out for today and see how it would go, but that was a very bad mistake on his part. Because after over 3 hours of slashing, Silva finally leveled up to level 8, he got extra free stat points added to the ones he had before. So he decided to put all his stat points into his stats today. He had been keeping them because he had not started combat training yet, but now he had started. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%, Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 120,000. EXP * 0/800. SP * 5,000. Level * 8. Strength * 40. Defense * 30. Speed * 50. Agility * 50. Intelligence * 60. Free stat points * 100. Skills. Scale hardening LV4, cover yourself in Dark Dragon scales for 5 minutes, 200% increase to defense and strength, x10. Dragon Eyes LV4, see energy forms, lasts for 5 minutes, x10. Speed Comprehension LV2, x10. Magic. Abyss Magic, Gate of Hell, sacrifice your blood to open a powerful gate to consume the souls of your enemies. Effect multiplied by 10. Consume, eat the soul or parts of the soul of any being to gain strength. Let's assign 20 stat points to all my stats, Silva said. He received a sudden surge of strength as his strength and all stats increased far past the 50 mark. His sword became faster and more refined in that instant, it was like he had been a veteran for quite a while. But it didn't stop there as his swordsmanship leveled up as well to level 2, and that caused another exponential increase in his skill. His sword became so fast that his father had trouble keeping up, and that was when his father knew that it would not be for the best if these two even spent time relatively close together. Silva, stop. He called out. Silva immediately stopped swinging. Come over here, please, Leon said. Your sword, it changed multiple times over the period of your training. I don't know how you did it, but the way you swing is no longer that of a child. And the strength behind your swing sadly surpasses even mine. I think I know the reason for all this, but sadly I can't tell you yet. Keep your training up and get stronger, and I'll tell you. But for now, you can't train with Mike. I'll arrange for you to start another training. It will be something that matches your level. I feel like if you keep on training with Mike, the difference in abilities will kill his spirit. I understand, Father. I'll do my best to train harder, Silva said and left. He knew that the thing he wanted to tell him was about not being their son, but Silva felt like it was too early for such information. It didn't matter to Silva, though, that information was already with him. He saw everything the day he was born. After that day, Leon took it upon himself to start training Silva in a full course of swordsmanship. But in just a year, Leon could not even keep up in the slightest. Silva had gone beyond what he could handle. So he stopped the lessons and decided to ask a favor from the leader of the Adventurers Guild, who was known to have the highest strength in the town. Today was the day that Silva was going to start his training with the guild master. He would have to pass a test first, and if he proved capable, the guild master would train him. During the past year, Silva did his best to get to level 10, and with his 10 times effect, he was able to achieve it before his training began. His stats had basically dwarfed his father's and everyone else's in the house. This led to heavy resentment from Mike. It had gone from anger to pure, unfiltered hatred. They never met gazes anymore. Mike threw himself into training, wanting to surpass Silva. He poured his soul into it and collapsed on multiple occasions. His father explained to him that he was already on a great path and that he should stop the obsession of surpassing Silva. He told him that what he was doing was hurting himself and that he was still not getting where he wanted to be, so he should stop. His father had said that with all good intentions, but all that Mike heard was that he wasn't as good as Silva and would not be able to surpass him. That pierced his heart and caused him to start pushing harder and harder, not caring how much damage he did to himself. Leah, on the other hand, had grown to like Silva more over the year, and that caused Mike even more pain, watching his twin sister act that way with the person he hated. After getting to level 10, Silva was finally able to access the shop feature of his system. When he had first come to this world, he thought that everyone was able to use a system like him, but it seemed it wasn't that way. For other people to see their stats, they needed special items or the appraisal skill. He, on the other hand, had a full system with awesome features. He was certain that this was the work of the goddess. He was yet to check the shop feature, but he would do that after he passed the test with the guild master. Silva. His father called from outside. Silva left his room and headed out to meet his father. They both headed towards the Adventurers Guild, which was a full 10 minutes walk from their house. They arrived at a 2-story building with the sign, Adventurers Guild, boldly displayed. Leon walked in, and Silva followed behind. As soon as they entered, some adventurers who were seated there started calling out to Leon in greeting. While some shot Silva some looks that he didn't understand, he paid them no heed. Leon walked to the counter where the receptionist was. "Is the guild master in?" he asked. The receptionist was a beautiful lady dressed in a green and white uniform for the guild. "Sir Leon, it's nice to see you. The guild master is upstairs, you can head there," she said with a smile. Leon nodded and headed towards the stairs with Silva. When they got to the second floor, Leon headed straight for a door and knocked on it before opening it. "Leon, it is good to see you." A huge man called out to Leon as soon as he entered. His body was ripped, and his muscles glistened like they were made of metal. His clothes were barely able to keep from ripping. He was far above 6 feet tall, and with those muscles, he looked like a giant. Silva used dragon eyes, and he was shocked to see the stats of this man. He was a level 70, with stats over 150. His most impressive stat was his strength. The strength was 200, while all other stats were about 150. This man is a monster. That was the only thought passing through Silva's head. "It's good to see you again, Guild Master," Leon said and bowed his head. "Drop the Guild Master business. We've been friends for a long time now, call me Raze." "That's my name, or have you forgotten?" the Guild Master asked. "No, I remember, but this is me asking for a favor, so I should at least show some respect," Leon said. "Forget that. So is this the young man that I am to train?" Raze asked. "The hell? This man clearly said beat. He wants to beat me up. What the hell have I done to you?" "We just met," Silva yelled in his mind. "Yes, he is the one. His situation is special, like I told you before, which is why the details have to be between me and you," Leon said. I understand, you don't need to stress about it. But he has to prove that he is worthy of being my student, Reyes said. If this was just a test, Silva was sure that he could stand his ground. After all, his stats had really gone up after he became level 10. He received an increase of 2 to all stats, and his 10x effect multiplied them to 20 and added them to the original stats. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%, Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 150,000. EXP * 0/1, 000. SP * 80,000. Level * 10. Strength * 80. Defense * 70. Speed * 90. Agility * 90. Intelligence * 100. Free stat points * 40. He may not be half of Reyes, but his strength was enough to pass any test that Reyes could throw at him. If he was not able to pass with stats like his, then Reyes simply didn't want him to pass. Reyes led them into a small arena at the back of the guild. It was a place used to settle some disputes and other things. There was a rack of weapons that had seen better days, but no one tended to them as long as they were still a bit functional. What weapon do you use, kid? Reyes asked. I use a sword, Silva replied. All right, take your pick, Reyes said. Silva took a sword from the rack that fit his size and came to face Reyes. Reyes, on the other hand, took a piece of stick that had been lying on the ground. I'll be using this. The rules are simple, you have to survive a minute of me attacking, and after that, you have to attack me and land a hit in the next minute. If what your father said about you is true, then you should be capable of pulling this off, right? After all, you are stronger than your own father, Reyes said. Reyes looked at Leon at the side. Keep count for us, tell us after every 10 seconds, Reyes said. Leon nodded, he raised his hands, and then brought them down to signify the start. Reyes charged from his position like a rocket, he covered the distance between them in less than a second and then swung his stick towards Silva. Silva took a step back as fast as he could and raised his sword, parrying the stick to the side. Even that simple parry put a lot of strain on his body, this was the disparity in strength. He set one of his feet back and planted it into the ground. He managed to get through the first attack, he quickly withdrew a few steps and got ready for the next attack. That is good, but can you keep it up? Reyes said and charged again. He went in for another slash, but Silva was able to parry that one as well. He continued that way until his father called out the 30-second mark. As soon as it reached this time, Reyes increased his speed and power behind his attacks. He started pushing Silva back with several attacks, but Silva was able to block the attacks. Silva could see a smile forming on Reyes' face whenever he successfully blocked an attack. It was as though Reyes was having fun sparring with Silva. You're really something else, kid. When your father told me about you, I, for one, thought that it was exaggerated, but it seems all he said was true, Reyes said as he went in for the final attack, using more force than normal. Silva set his blade to block, but then the stick suddenly disappeared and appeared at another angle. Silva was shocked by this, but he quickly calmed his mind. He had high intelligence stats and was able to make rational and quick decisions. He spun his body in an unusual way, allowing him to parry the attack. The way he parried the attack was risky, and so it sent a shock up his arms, but it wasn't something he couldn't withstand. That's 1 minute, Leon called out. That last move you pulled off there, Silva, was really unconventional. I had wanted to land one hit against you at least. So I used a move that I was sure you wouldn't be able to dodge, but you still managed to pull it off somehow. The way you twisted your body, that was simply amazing, Reyes praised Silva. I guess now I just have to hit you once, Silva said. After that last move you did, I can say you passed already, but if you feel like you can land a hit, then have at it. I will remove the time limit and have you try as much as you can, Reyes said. No, that won't be necessary. I'll land a hit in 1 minute, Silva said. Reyes was shocked when Silva said that with so much confidence. He could feel his heart beating faster and his anticipation building for the fight. All right, then come at me with all that you have, Reyes called out. Silva didn't waste a moment. He charged forward with his sword at his side, and then he activated Dragon Eyes. The initial use of Dragon Eyes was to see the flow of energy. If he used it in this fight, he would be able to predict the motions of rays. For instance, if rays were to take a step back, energy would gather in the leg first for the motion. Silva would see that energy motion before the leg moved, and that would give him a split second to make decisions. It may not be much, but his landing a hit could all come down to just a split second. As he got close, he went in for a conventional thrust to get things going. Silva noticed the energy flowing into the lower abdomen and some parts of the hips. The energy moved in a twirling motion, and so Silva was able to predict that rays would be twisting his body to the side in order to dodge. Just as he predicted, rays did indeed shift his body to the side and dodged the attack, but because Silva had a split-second head start, he immediately slashed his sword to the side. Rays did not expect Silva to have such reaction time. He used his stick to block the sword, but then Silva added force behind his slash and cut through the stick. Rays took a few steps back, the shock on his face was evident. This kid, he is adapting his attacks at reaction speeds that I have never seen before. His first thrust should have completed the motion even after I dodged, but he quickly halted his sword and went for a slash. I tried to block the slash, but then he added force. It is like he is reacting as fast as I am making my moves. What sort of monster is this kid? Now that he had managed to break Ray's stick, Silva was not going to give him a moment to rest. He would press harder and land his hit. Silva charged in, going for a stab while observing the energy flow of Rays. Rays took a step back and was about to twist his body. Just like before, Silva was ready to move the same way and change the direction of the sword to a slash. But Rays did something that Silva was not expecting in the slightest. Ray's hand suddenly moved, slapping the side of the sword and pushing it in another direction. Silva had been too focused on making the best use of his split second and didn't notice the last energy flow that Rays used. Rays made a last-minute movement when he saw that Silva would react quickly to him dodging. The best way he could fight against Silva's reaction speed was to make last-second decisions and act on them without care for what might go wrong. Your fighting style is indeed a very good one. You maximize your reaction time and use it to your advantage, making split-second decisions that throw your enemy off guard. To combat your style, I took a risky path that involves me making a move at the last moment, just before you react to my first motion. That means, when you reacted to me dodging and were about to swing your sword, I took the risk of blocking it with my palm. My hand moved forward just before your blade changed directions, and that allowed me to block. It is a crazy technique that requires a keen eye and higher speed than your enemy. Rays explained how he blocked the attack. That's a lot of calculation going into blocking one move, Silva said and charged again. This time, he pushed his speed to the max and went for the legs with a slash. Rays leaped into the air and dodged the attack, but that was what Silva expected. Silva paused the flow of his sword, and then changed direction once more. Rays saw through this, it was not as effective as his former moves. Rays brought one leg down, Silva tried to lift his sword, but it hit the underside of Ray's foot and went back down. Rays landed on the sword that was on the ground and sent a kick at Silva. Silva had no other choice but to let go of the sword and block the attack. You attacked me, I was supposed to attack, Silva said. Yeah, it slipped my mind since the fight was getting so good, but sadly I think your minute has come to an end, Rays said. Leon nodded to confirm that the 60 seconds were indeed over. I wasn't able to land a hit. Silva felt pissed that he couldn't land a hit. Don't get angry about it, kid. You passed and will be my student. It was never possible for you to land a hit in the first place. Even with your stats, there was no way that I would allow you to land a hit on me, Rays explained. He patted Silva on the shoulder. I'll give my best in training you for the next few years, Rays said with a smile. I feel like I will have surpassed him strength-wise in the next year, if not less, Silva thought to himself. The training will start tomorrow. Go home and get some rest, you need it after the test that you just got through, Rays said to Silva. Silva and his dad headed home. They had managed to get the guild master to train Silva. Underscore 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 underscore. The next day, Silva met with the guild master, and he informed him of what their training would be. Your abilities don't really need much in the way of training, you just need some experience, and all your stats will go up accordingly. So on that note, You and I will be heading into the forest to carry out some quests and gather you some much-needed experience. The best way to get better is by actually being in life-and-death battles, Reyes explained. Reyes took out a few pieces of paper and laid them down on the table. These are quests that I have handpicked myself. I felt that they would match your level of skill and strength. You have to carry out all these quests in the next 30 days. I'll be there for you for the first 3 quests to show you the ropes of survival. After that, everything will be in your hands. If you succeed, I'll take it that you passed the first phase of your training, Reyes explained. I understand. I'll do my best to live up to your expectations, Silva assured. All right, so take your pick. What quest will you be taking? Reyes asked. Silva read through the quests that were on the table and landed on one that had to do with exterminating giant slimes. In all honesty, Silva didn't need all this training and stuff. His legacy could make him grow as fast as possible. But Silva wanted a solid foundation. He wanted to ensure that he took his time to get what was needed and didn't rely solely on his legacy. He would train in the basics of the sword and other things, so that when added to the legacy, he would basically be an unstoppable monster with unlimited growth. Silva stood at the entrance of the forest with Reyes behind him. Silva was holding a sword that Reyes gave to him before they got here. According to the quest, there was a group of giant slimes near the outskirts of the forest, and they had been trying to enter civilization. Silva had to head to their lair, or wherever they stayed, and deal with the slimes. He entered the forest and started searching for a slime. Finally, he found a giant slime hopping through the bushes. It was as tall as a full-grown man, translucent blue, and jelly-like, bobbing up and down as it went. Silva didn't need to use his dragon eyes to spot the slime's weak point. The core was clearly visible through its translucent, jelly-like body. However, he still decided to use his eyes to check its stats. Giant slime. Level *8. Strength *20. Defense *25. Speed *15. Agility *10. Intelligence *5. Seems I don't have to worry about anything, Silva muttered after seeing the slime stats. He then charged at the slime with a sword he had received from Reyes. The slime noticed Silva's presence and fired a slime bullet at him. Silva dodged the bullet, which struck the ground and melted it around the impact site. Tisk, that's a nasty technique. I can't let that hit me. The slime fired more slime bullets, but Silva easily dodged them and closed the gap, stabbing into the slime and hitting its core. The core shattered, and the slime's jelly-like body spilled out like water. You have killed a giant slime. 50 EXP, 25 SP, x10. With that kill alone, he had gained 500 EXP. If he killed another slime, he would level up. It seems I didn't even need to come with you. You handled that so easily I felt it was pointless, Reyes said. No, I did gain experience from it. I can handle a giant slime faster than I did now because I now have a little understanding of its abilities, Silva responded. All right then, you should search for the next one. The more you find, the closer you get to their home, Reyes said. Or I could get a skill that allows me to find them easier, Silva thought to himself. He had yet to use the shop since acquiring it, so now seemed like a good time to do so. The interface for the shop opened before his eyes, and a long list of skills and spells filled the screen. If he began to search manually, he wouldn't find what he was looking for in this large list, so he tried something different. System, is it possible to narrow the skills on the list to those that can help you search for enemies? Ironically, the skill that appeared at the top of the list was called Search. It cost 1000 SP. Search LV1, seek out a specific target or specific type of target that you have in mind. Skill consumes 1 mana per second. Effective range, 100 meters, x10. Luckily for Silva, his legacy made it possible to use Search for 10 kilometers, and it also reduced the mana cost by 1/10. Silva decided to wait on buying any more skills. He couldn't keep Reyes waiting. He activated Search with the giant slimes in mind. Immediately, he picked up on their locations, even identifying the place where they gathered most, which was likely their home. I have found them, their homes as well, Silva said. What do you mean by found them? Reyes asked. I have a search skill, so I was able to find them, Silva said casually. Reyes opened his mouth to say something but then closed it. He took a deep breath and finally spoke. At this point, nothing you do will surprise me, kid, Reyes said. Silva didn't respond and started running toward the closest slime. When he was able to see the slime, he increased his speed and went for the attack. He didn't want to allow the slime to attack at all. He stabbed the slime, penetrating its core, and the slime spilled like water. You have killed a giant slime. 50 EXP, 25 SP, x10. Level up. 2 free stat points, x10. Reyes met up with Silva, not rushing because he was certain Silva could deal with the slimes without his help. In fact, he felt like his presence here was quite pointless, but he had promised to be there for the first 3 quests Silva took. Silva used search to locate his next target. He made sure to take out all the slimes that were alone before heading for those in clusters of 2 or 3. Silva charged at one of the 3 slimes. The other 2 fired slime bullets at him when they saw him. Silva easily maneuvered through them, but one brushed his shirt and melted it slightly. It seemed his speed wasn't quite enough, but that was not an issue. He killed the first slime by slashing it in half, body and core. He immediately charged at the second slime and killed it the same way. You have killed a giant slime. 50 EXP, 25 SP, x10. You have killed a giant slime. 50 EXP, 25 SP, x10. The last slime seemed to be smarter than its brethren. It tried to retreat, but it was too late. Silva charged at it and stabbed through its core. You have killed a giant slime. 50 EXP, 25 SP, x10. Silva went around taking out other slimes until only the ones at their home were left. By now, he had leveled up to level 14. He decided that it was the right time to use his stat points. The number of slimes there was over 20, he had to be stronger to deal with them. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%, Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 150,000. EXP * 500/4000. SP * 100,000. Level * 14. Strength * 80. Defense * 70. Speed * 90. Agility * 90. Intelligence * 100. Free stat points * 120. He had accumulated quite a number of SP and stat points. Silva made a mental note to start getting some new skills and spells from the store. He had 100,000 SP, more than enough for a shopping spree. As for the stat points, he decided to add 20 to all stats and leave the remaining 20 for any emergency, bringing his stats to Strength * 100. Defense * 90. Speed * 110. Agility * 110. Intelligence * 120. Free stat points * 20. It had only been a few days since he met Reyes, but his stats were already getting close to Reyes. Silva was beginning to think there was no point in getting Reyes to train him in the first place. Silva headed towards the herd of slimes. Reyes had offered to help him, but Silva refused his help. He couldn't let the EXP that he could gain from there be taken away. As soon as he got to the place, over 20 slimes took notice of him, but before they could do anything, he had already dived into their midst. His speed was too fast for the slimes to react to. Their base speed was around 10, but Silva was already at 100, which was 10 times their speed. They also had very low intelligence, and because of that, they couldn't keep up with his movements, even with their 360-degree sight. In less than a minute, over 20 slimes were already killed, and that amounted to 10,000 EXP, and an additional 5,000 SP. He leveled up to level 16, with some EXP left over. Reyes looked at the scene in shock. He was capable of pulling off something like this, but he didn't expect Silva to do it, not in his wildest dreams. That's the last of them. Is the quest considered complete now? Silva asked. Why yes, the quest is complete. I didn't think we would get it done in one day. I believed we would have to return another day to finish off, Reyes said. That would be a waste of time. I want to get through all the quests as fast as possible, Silva said. Underscore 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 underscore. When they returned to the guild, Reyes sat Silva down in his office. He wanted to have a talk with him. Kid, there is really no point in me training you, your sword skill is already at a high level. Your movements are fluid and fast. You also have your own personal style added to it, with extremely fast reactions. It takes people years to create styles unique to them, but you already did. All you need now is experience to level up more and more. This is something that you can't get from me. The best I can do is offer you pointers from time to time, Reyes explained to Silva. Then how do I get this experience? I can only take the quests that you give me, Silva said. I understand, and that is why I'll be making the first exception, and I'll be making you an adventurer. That way, you can mix up in real quests, not the quests that I have chosen for you. I had selected those quests for you while keeping safety in mind. But I've come to realize that the way for you to grow is by going through some difficult situations. I know you are a 6-year-old, but I believe you can handle it, Reyes explained his offer to Silva. I want to take the offer, but I believe that you should inform my parents about it first, and if they let me, then I'll be an adventurer, Silva said. After that, Reyes went ahead to tell Silva's parents about the offer, and after a long discussion, they agreed to it. The word of a child adventurer got out, and it caused an uproar all over the town. Many people tried to find out more about this adventurer, but Silva kept a very low profile for the next few years, completing quests and leveling up. Underscore 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 underscore. A few years went by just like that, and Silva celebrated his 12th birthday. He had grown so much in that time. 12 years were considered the real starting point of life for any person. It was also the legal age of becoming an adventurer, though he had started far younger. All this time, Silva had been growing in strength and skill, that was the only thing he did. The amount of spells and skills now were amazing, and his stats had also reached crazy heights. But he was yet to start searching for the reason why the goddess sent him here, but all that changed after his 12th birthday when he started having some kind of dreams. The dreams always started with him going to a certain magical academy, and then something of massive chaos happens in the academy. He knew he had to go to that academy to find out what the dreams meant. The academy was called the Black Star Academy. It was in the nearest city to them, Black Star City. It was also the original place where Silva was born. This was the academy that Leah had been trying to get into. Her legacy had come to be an ice-type legacy, and that made her a very powerful ice mage. She had started receiving training since she was 10, preparing to get into the academy when she turned 14. Normally, her training would have cost way too much for her parents, but they had Silva. Silva was now a C-ranked adventurer and was making tons of money after every quest, and he was able to pay for her training. This action further increased how much Leah loved him, and how much Mike hated him. The gap between them was so evident that even his parents knew about it but could do nothing about it. Quinn, on the other hand, didn't care about all that was happening. He had become an adventurer and had also risen to the rank of C. He trained hard and became a very skilled swordsman, well known throughout the town. Most of the time, the people of the town referred to Quinn and Silva as the Shining Brothers. Leah, on the other hand, was referred to as the Rising Star. As for Mike, it was as though he failed at the game of life. Even though he trained and was getting better, he was still far outshined by his siblings, especially Silva. No matter what he did and how he trained, he was always compared to his brothers, and his own accomplishments always fell short of theirs, and not by a friendly margin. This had slowly thrown his soul into despair, and all that hate was getting channeled at Silva. Silva headed to the Adventurers Guild early in the morning. He was very close to reaching level 25, and he wanted to finally level up. Though the quests he could receive were limited to C rank, if he wanted to get to B rank, he had to do something worthy of recognition by the lord of the town or a higher authority. But Silva had dodged that recognition for years now. He didn't want to get involved in political issues at this stage of his life. Though he might be able to get better quests and grow stronger faster, it wasn't worth the stress that came with politics. Silva arrived at the guild and noticed a crowd of adventurers. This was something that wasn't seen often, so he became curious about what was happening. The crowd was so large that no one even noticed him when he walked into the guild. The place was bustling, filled with so much noise that he couldn't make out what was happening. He looked around and noticed Quinn and Mike seated at a table, so he went to meet them. "Hey guys," Silva greeted. He raised his hand in a slight wave, then drew out the empty seat and sat down. "Good morning, Silva," Quinn responded to Silva's greeting, but Mike outright ignored him. Mike and Quinn had not been home for a while. Quinn was considered an adult now, and he had a small place in the main town, which allowed him to carry out his adventuring better. Mike decided to stay with Quinn for a while. "What's happening? This place is far more crowded than usual," Silva asked. "A labyrinth was discovered in the forest yesterday. It has pulled all the adventurers because they want to get early permits to enter before the big city adventurers start heading this way," Quinn explained. A labyrinth was an enigmatic construct with laws that differed from those of the normal world. It is a place that offers tons of resources, but in return for the resources, it gives equal dangers. Labyrinths were considered national treasures, and the place that finds one will surely get popular and grow faster. "I see, a labyrinth should warrant such attention. I have never been to one before. Is there a way I can get a permit to enter?" Silva asked. "With the number of adventurers here at the moment, it would take you all day to get one. You could use your connection to the guild master as a student to get a permit, but sadly, he was called out of town today concerning the labyrinth," Quinn said. "I have to find a solution. It would be bad if I missed the first entry," Silva said. "Well, you can join my party. I know you move solo, but this time you have to compromise if you want to enter the labyrinth early. I managed to get a party permit, and it allows one more member," Quinn offered. "We don't need his help, Quinn," Mike said in anger, standing up from his seat. "Mike, sit down. This is not the time or place for your feud with Silva. Don't let your hate cloud your senses. Silva is stronger than both of us combined. Added to that, he is very reasonable. Even if he gets most of the kills, I'm pretty sure he will let us have a very decent share. In my book, that is a good bargain, so put away all your issues and work with him, or you can sit out of the party. You understand that I don't work based on relationships, but rather effectiveness, and on that note, Silva is far more effective than you," Quinn said. Every word that Quinn said was like a dagger, penetrating the soul of Mike. They were all true, but it didn't make it any easier to stomach. "You guys don't have to worry about the sharing, everything will be equal amongst all party members. I, for one, mostly want the experience that comes with the labyrinth raid," Silva said. "Bullshit," Mike said, but Silva and Quinn ignored him. They waited a bit for the rest of the party to arrive. The party was made up of 2 other men and 1 lady. She was just about 16 and used dual daggers. Silva used dragon eyes on all of them, their base stats ranged from 50 to 70. It had been a long time since he had stats around that amount, his current stats were double that. Name * Silva. Race * human, 50%, Dark Dragon, 50%. Legacy * Dark Dragon Legacy, Awakened. Magical affinities * summoning, darkness, abyss magic. Mana * 300,000. EXP * 10, 000/14, 000. SP * 50,000. Level * 24. Strength * 160. Defense * 140. Speed * 180. Agility * 180. Intelligence * 200. Free stat points * 500. Currently, he stood as the strongest person in this town, though he had bought the conceal skill and hid his real stats. The stats he let show were under those of Ray's, the guild master, and a few other veteran B-rank adventurers. Silva didn't want the tag strongest because it would attract unwanted issues. Finding a safe point was the way to go. That didn't mean he would take it easy on anyone who crossed his path. His pride as a dark dragon would not allow that. Quinn told the party that Silva would be joining them. Their excitement when they heard that could not be hidden. After all, he was known throughout the town. "My name is Rock, I act as the tanker of this party," the bigger guy spoke first. The second guy spoke up and introduced himself as well. "My name is Roy, I specialize in magic." The girl refused to introduce herself. Silva didn't know why, he hadn't met her before, but she outright refused to look him in the eye. Since she was not going to reveal her name, Quinn decided to introduce her. She is Roxy, she specializes in sneak attacks and assassinations. After introductions were done, it was time to head to the labyrinth to start their raid. When they arrived at the labyrinth, they met a massive crowd standing in front of the large door. Many people still wondered how such a thing could just appear out of nowhere. The door was connected to a mountain and was said to lead downwards into the mountain. This particular labyrinth was found when someone accidentally blew up the mountain, revealing the door. We should head to the front, it seems a few people have already entered as well, Quinn said and led the team to the front of the labyrinth. There were quite a few guards from the town and seemingly from Blackstar City as well. When they saw Quinn's team, they halted them and asked for their permit. "Do you have a permit to get into the labyrinth?" the man asked. He was one of the guards from the city, not the town. "We do," Quinn said and took out his storage pouch to remove the permit. He handed the permit to the man. The man looked through it, it was a party permit for 6 people. He looked at the team and then spotted Mike and Silva. He decided to ignore Mike since he seemed older, but he focused on Silva. "Isn't it reckless to take a kid into a labyrinth that was just discovered?" "Sure, he may be at the acceptable age, but that doesn't mean you can just take him to his death," the guard said with a pissed face. "I made the conscious decision to come here, there is no need for you to worry about me. I may not look like all that much, but I am pretty strong," Silva said. "TSK, kid, it doesn't matter what you think, it is careless to do what you want to," the guard said, his tone getting pissed. "Sir, I don't think you have the right to tell us what to do and what not to do. Everyone in my party is of the acceptable age, and if there is anyone qualified to enter this labyrinth, it would be Silva," Quinn said. "You damn brat, do you want me to revoke your permit?" the guard asked. Their discussion had created a scene, and the people around were looking. When the town guard saw the people that the guard was arguing with, they all ran over. They immediately pulled the guard back and bowed their heads to ask for forgiveness. "Sir Quinn and Sir Silva, we are deeply sorry for wasting your time." "He didn't know better," a guard said in apology. "Raise your heads, we just want to get in," Quinn said and passed them, entering the labyrinth. The guard that had been pulled away snapped at the town's guards, he didn't understand why they would just come and pull him like that. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he asked. "Those 2 people you were stressing out are Quinn and Silva. Both of them are C-ranked adventurers of this town, you can't just disrespect them," one of the guards explained to him. "What? How can that kid already be C-ranked?" "He looks 12, the guard asked. "That's not all, there is a rumor that he's already good enough for B rank, but he refuses to have political connections and so has remained at C rank. He is the town's prodigy, the first person to become an adventurer at 6 in the town." The guard that had been pulled raised his brows in shock. He could remember years ago, a rumor of a kid becoming an adventurer spread through the city. Many didn't take it seriously, but here he was today, and he saw that same person. He now understood why the guards reacted the way they did, such a person was basically a treasure. Underscore 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 underscore. Inside the labyrinth, it was like a cave, illuminated by some white stones on the ceiling. There was the dripping sound of water hitting the ground at intervals, giving a strange vibe to the place. The air was also heavy and stationary, there was no movement of wind at all. As they passed through the place, Silva used his advanced search to check for enemies. He simply searched for living organisms, and in less than 3 seconds, he found a group of what seemed to be goblins headed their way. There are a ton of goblins headed this way, about 15 of them. Their base stats are all around 10 to 20. Their weaponry seems heavily beat up, it shouldn't be able to take a full hit from yours. Silva gave them all the information they could possibly need. Everyone took out their weapons in response to what he said, but Silva didn't do that, he simply stood and waited. There was something he wanted to try, and that was summoning. He hadn't done a summoning since he came to this world, and that was his base magic. He wanted to get the feel of summoning, he didn't need such weak creatures, but for the sake of testing it out, he would do it. The group was happy that they had Silva on their side, his search ability just saved them all the trouble that could have come with those goblins. After a while, the goblins were in sight, brandishing their weapons at the party. "You 3 handle it. Mike, join them," Quinn said and retreated back. Such creatures hardly helped him level up ever since he got to level 20. Silva didn't know how it was happening, but he knew that Quinn had something special about him. Even without a legacy, Quinn leveled up very fast, there had to be a reason that only he knew about. The issue was that he had to face tons of stronger monsters if he wanted to grow faster. The 4 people took the front line and charged at the incoming goblins. The battle began with the mage casting a fireball that exploded on the head of a goblin and killed it. Silva watched as they fought. He approached the battle and snatched one of the goblins like it was nothing. The goblin shook and struggled, but nothing it did was even helping in the slightest. Do you wish to force a summoner contract? This feature was an aspect of the summoner contract that Silva could use to force a being to submit and be his summon. But for this summon to work, he needed to dominate the creature and force it. The goblin was very weak, and so Silva was able to use this feature. Yes, I want to use the forced contract, Silva said. A light shone on the head of the goblin, and it went down, leaving a mark that looked like a 4-pointed star and an eye at the center. The mark also faded away after a few seconds. Silva could feel his connection with this goblin, his emotions, and other things as well. Silva could even slightly tell what this goblin was thinking. He could sense the goblin's hate for Silva, but it could do nothing about it. Silva had an idea since the goblin hated him that much, and so he gave a command. Whenever you think ill of me, you will choke yourself until you stop thinking about it. Immediately he gave that command, the goblin used both hands to choke itself. It began struggling for breath, but its hands refused to stop. The others had dealt with the goblins, and so they watched this horrific scene. They had killed goblins and other monsters, but they never actually put them through something like this. They could see the tears welling up inside the eyes of the goblin. Its eyes were bloodshot, and its veins were all popping. Silva looked at the goblin with a blank, expressionless face, waiting for the goblin to find its way out. The goblin was about to pass out, but then its hands left its neck, and it was able to breathe. It seemed it had finally let go of its hate for Silva. But that was too early an assumption, as the goblin grabbed its neck a few seconds later. It seems you still hate me. I tried to believe that you were capable of forgiveness, but it seems you can't, so I'll end you now, Silva said. He walked to the goblin and plunged his sword through the heart of the goblin. He didn't even flinch as blood sprayed on his face. The others looked at Silva with some fear in their eyes. Silva had killed that goblin without the slightest care after torturing it. The law of the labyrinths was that when something died in the labyrinth, it would be transformed into certain materials known as drops. The most common of them are crystals. The monsters and things killed here normally turn into crystals that can be sold for a good buck. Many people have also died in labyrinths, but there was no corpse, no body part to remember them by. Most of the time, their funeral is held by burying the crystal or whatever drop came after they died. Still, this didn't stop anyone from exploring labyrinths. Humans still seek out the treasures that lay in the depths of those hellish labyrinths. The goblins that they killed transformed into crystals, and Quinn took them and put them into his storage. We should head deeper, we have wasted a bit of time here, Quinn said. Sorry about that, I was the cause. I just wanted to test my summoning magic, Silva said and walked up to them. Summoning magic? Quinn asked in shock. Oh, it seems Mom and Dad never told you about it. My main magical ability is summoning. I have not been able to train it for years since I focused on training and quests. I just decided that today would be a good day to start, and so I used it on the goblin. It was choking itself because of the command I gave it. Bound by the summoning pact, he is unable to defy me unless he possesses greater strength than mine, Silva explained. I see, but Silva, you said that you have never practiced this summoning magic before, right? Quinn asked. Yes, today was the first day, Silva responded. Sigh, is there no end to your abilities, Silva? Quinn asked. Hee, I just got lucky, that's all, Silva responded. Quinn knew his brother all too well and how he downplayed his abilities. In fact, something told Quinn that he was yet to know the true depths of Silva's power. Honestly, that feeling was true. Silva had never for once used the numerous dark dragon abilities and skills he had gathered over the years. Neither had he shown some of his sword skills that were level 7 and above. He had reached level 10 mastery in basic swordsmanship and was about to evolve the skill. This, among many more, were the unfathomable growths that he had over the years. The party headed deeper into the labyrinth, and soon they were met with two choices, a path to the left and a path to the right. We should take the left. I used search, and there was a ton of goblins on the left, even a few hobgoblins of good strength, Silva said. What the hell are you saying, you brat? If the left has more monsters, then we should go right, Mike barked at him. Mike, what the hell do you think we are here for? To enjoy our walk through the labyrinth. We are here to get stronger, gather experience, and gather resources. The only way we can do that is if we head to the places that are more risky because that's where all the good things are, Silva explained. Bullshit, you just want to get us killed, you little bastard, Mike yelled. Roxy came and stood beside Mike. She folded her arms and spoke. I agree with Mike. We can't just head into danger because your lust for battle is very high. Are you even human? How can you want to take us to our deaths like that? She spoke with a pissed-off look on her face. It was at this point that Silva understood why she refused to greet him when they met. Her mind had been poisoned by Mike, against him. Now that he knew what was going on, an evil plot set in Silva's heart. See, there was one thing he didn't like, and that was the fact that over the years, Mike had used other people in the feud. Mike would always aim to use people to attack Silva, but Silva always turned it back on him. Silva had made it sort of an oath that whenever Mike used someone against him, he would use that same person to hit Mike hard. Right now, he was pissed because this girl had nothing to do with them, yet Mike had gone ahead to tarnish his name to her. Now she was hating him for no particular reason. His pride stood in the way of letting this go, and so he would have to take care of this. I stand with Silva on this one, Rock said. I don't think he wants us dead. Rather, he wants us to get the best out of this labyrinth, he wants us to gain more resources. I'm also with Silva on this one. I'd rather go to the left and fight to better my abilities, Roy agreed. Then the majority has it, let's head left, Quinn said and went into the left cave. Mike was pissed at this decision. He wanted to lash out, but he couldn't, so he reluctantly followed into the left path. It didn't take up to a minute since they started the path, goblins charged their way, holding their rusted-out weapons. Silva took out his sword, he took his stance beside Quinn. I'll back you up, Quinn, Silva said. Quinn nodded and charged ahead with Silva right behind him. Roy, provide general cover for us, Quinn yelled. The rest of you, hold the midline and protect Roy. The goblins moved to surround Quinn and get to his back, but Silva intercepted them. A goblin leaped into the air and came down with a slash, Silva sidestepped and dodged it. He kicked the goblin in the abdomen and sent it flying into a wall, killing it. You have killed a goblin, 50 EXP, 25 SP, X10. Silva didn't want noise during his fight, so he immediately turned off his notifications. Another goblin came from behind Silva, trying to attack his blind spot. The blade was about to hit Silva, but Silva vanished and appeared behind the goblin. He stabbed the goblin through the chest, the goblin let out a horrendous cry and fell down dead. 3 goblins charged at Silva from the front. Silva pulled out his sword from the dead goblin, took one step forward with the other leg planted at the back, and then he slashed. The sword cut through the 3 goblins like a hot knife through butter, their bodies flew in halves. As he fought, one slipped past him and was about to get to Quinn. Silva saw this and immediately activated Flash Step. Flash Step was a skill that increased his base speed by 10, but Silva's skills were all multiplied by 10, which meant he could go 100 times faster than normal. In a flash, the goblin that was almost in Quinn's blind spot was pulverized into a mist of blood. When Silva stopped running, there was not a single drop of blood on him, as that speed didn't allow the blood to rest on his body. Underscore 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 underscore. Quinn saw what Silva did. He was happy and a bit jealous. He would have been able to take care of the goblin, but Silva kept to his word that he would watch his back. 3 goblins tried to attack Quinn as he was distracted, but a huge fireball landed in front of them and sent them flying. Quinn looked back and gave Roy a thumbs up. He faced forward, the 3 goblins were just burnt, but they could still very much fight, and so they charged at Quinn again. Quinn held his sword with a double grip, then took a step back and thrust forward. A single thrust looked like 3 and pierced the 3 goblins. Seems like Brother Quinn has some pretty good skills in his arsenal as well, Silva thought. Quinn dashed forward. The goblin panicked as it saw Quinn. It swung its blades carelessly. Quinn dodged to the side and then slashed, cutting the goblin in 2. He spun around as soon as he cut through the goblin and threw his sword. The sword penetrated the head of an archer goblin that was behind him and about to shoot. He drew the sword out and looked around. There were still quite a few goblins around, but they had become cautious, or in better terms, they were scared. "If you won't come to me, I'll come to you," Quinn said and dashed at a small group of 3 goblins. They quickly held their swords up to fight. But the fear in their eyes could not be hidden. Quinn smiled when he saw that fear. He drove his sword and used the same skill as before, killing 3 of them in what looked like a single thrust. Silva had been watching Quinn fight. Even as he fought, he saw when Quinn smiled. Quinn hardly ever smiled, no matter what. He tried to keep a calm expression at all times. But just some seconds ago, Silva saw it. He saw his brother smile. "So that's what gets you happy, the thrill of battle, the joy of winning," Silva thought to himself. What was the point of his asking us to protect Roy if none of the goblins even got through? Rock said with a sour expression. "If this keeps up, we will not be able to gather any experience. The captain normally allows us to work as a team, and we all grow. Now that Silva is here, he is working with him rather than us. It pisses me off," Roxy said. "You can't deny it, they have a better flow than when we are with the captain," Rock said. Quinn pulled his sword out of the head of the last goblin, but he knew the battle was not over. He could sense the hobgoblins not too far away. He turned around and looked at the party. "You were able to reserve your strength in this fight, and that's a good thing. But now, there are several hobgoblins headed our way, so you have to fight," Quinn said. There are 7 hobgoblins, and their base strength is 50 to 70. But there is one with stats in the 80s. "I'll handle that one personally," Silva informed them. "Silva is taking out the strongest, that leaves us with 6. I'll be handling 2 at a time. You 4 have to find a way to win or at least hold off the other 5. Each of you has to take one on and hold it off until we are done or until you can kill it." Quinn laid out the plan. With the plan in motion, they headed towards the hobgoblins, and the goblins headed to them as well. Finally, they met with the over 10 feet tall goblins, holding massive weapons. Their muscles tightened, their veins popped, and they stood like mountains, like giants about to crush puny insects. "Silva, now!" Quinn ordered. Silva charged like a bullet. He was so fast that the goblins swung down to hit him but couldn't get him. He easily dodged them and got to the goblin at the back, the strongest one. The hobgoblins saw that he was going after their leader. They tried to give chase, but Quinn and the rest started their assault, forcing the goblins to concentrate on their own issues. Silva stood before the leader with a smile on his face. It had been a while since he faced something with reasonably high stats, and he was eager to play with this goblin. "All right, I won't use too many skills, just the bare minimum. I want to be able to savor this fight," Silva said to himself. The leader got pissed at Silva's nonchalant attitude. He swung his sword down, wanting to crush Silva. The sword cut through Silva cleanly and hit the ground, digging a deep hole and raising dust. But the goblin didn't feel like he had hit something. It was as though the sword passed through air. When he looked again, he saw the afterimage that he had cut fade away. In panic, he looked around for Silva but could not find him. Then suddenly, from above, he felt a chill. He looked up and saw Silva coming down. The goblin instinctively used his sword to block. Silva slashed down, and both swords collided with a loud bang. The leader was forced several steps back before he found his footing. He looked up and saw Silva standing there with a smile. The look on Silva's face pissed him off to no end. He could tell Silva was mocking him, a great goblin warrior. He wanted to rip that look off Silva's face. He wanted to stomp all over his corpse. Roar! He roared in anger, charging forward like a bullet, his every step leaving prints in the solid ground. "Now you're talking," Silva said. He charged at the goblin to meet it halfway. He swung his sword, but the goblin parried it, sending Silva's arm up with his sword. The goblin looked up at Silva's face. He wanted to see the despair that would form as he landed the final attack, but when he looked up, he saw Silva smiling. A chill ran through his body. Why was Silva smiling? It was clear that he had the upper hand and would end things now, but he wasn't sure anymore. He felt like if he made the next move and slashed down at Silva, he would be the one to die. This feeling overpowered all other thoughts in his mind. His body moved on its own, and he leaped back a couple of meters. When he stopped, he looked at Silva again and saw Silva frowning. At that point, he knew that Silva was baiting him in. That frown meant that he had just escaped a deadly trap, one that could have claimed his life. Why did you retreat? Is that how a goblin warrior acts? You have seriously pissed me off now, Silva said in anger. He kicked off like a bullet. The goblin took a stance to block Silva, but Silva disappeared. You think you can block me? I told you I'm pissed off right now, Silva said behind the goblin. The goblin jumped in pure fright. He tried to get away, but Silva didn't let him. Silva was not holding a sword. His hands were covered in black glistening scales, with inch-long claws that looked like they were made of metal. The goblin trembled as he saw this. He looked at Silva's eyes, they glowed red and gave off a threatening aura that suffocated him. Silva dug his hand into the stomach of the goblin, deep inside until his forearm was buried in the goblin. I'll show you what pissing me off causes, Silva said and activated the spell, Consume. The soul of the leader started getting pulled into Silva. The process was not simple at all. It caused the goblin so much pain that he yelled out his guts. You have gained 30 EXP, x10. You have gained 30 EXP, x10. You have gained 30 EXP, x10. Silva kept getting notifications as he absorbed the soul of the goblin. He had only ever used this once. It gave him a lot of EXP, but he didn't want to use it much because it caused unimaginable pain and destroyed your soul, so no reincarnation for that being. The body of the goblin fell to the ground lifeless, empty, and hollow. You have killed a hobgoblin, 100 EXP, 50 SP, x10. Just a little more before I level up, that's good, Silva said. He undid his scales and claws and went to meet the others. Silva recognized that he needed stronger opponents because even with his legacy and the 10 times buff, fighting weak opponents was not helping him. The party managed to take down all the job goblins, but the others were tired afterward, they had expended so much energy in the fight. Each of the hobgoblins was at least their strength, so the Balis were somewhat evened out. Silva and Quinn, on the other hand, didn't look tired, even after Silva fought the leader and Quinn took on 2 of them. It simply served to show that their strengths were not on the same level. All right, we should take a rest here, Quinn said, so they camped there for a bit. Roxy decided to whip up something quick. Normally, parties took food pills and preserved foods, but in their party, Quick had a storage pouch. That allowed them to carry a lot of things, so they could even cook during their quests and explorations. She was the one who handled the cooking since the other guys were incapable. Silva saw this as an opportunity to start his plan against Mike, so he quickly bought a few skills in cooking. Purchased Beginner Cooking Skill LV1. Purchased Kitchen Skills LV1. Use as many points as you need and get both to level 5, Silva said. The system had a way to allow him to increase his skills to level 5 using points, but after that, he could only use repeated actions to level them up. But this wasn't an issue because he had his 10x buff, which would make the cooking skills he had 10 times better. After purchasing the skills, he was filled with a ton of knowledge on handling the basics of cooking in the kitchen. If he wanted to level up more than this, he would need practice and research. This should be enough, Silva said. He got up and walked to Roxy. Hey, can I help you? You had a very stressful battle, so I'd like to assist you, Silva offered. His offer drew the attention of the others, they didn't think Silva would know anything about cooking. Mike, on the other hand, had a very bad feeling about this. He could tell that Silva was plotting something, and it was targeted at him. When did you learn to cook? You should let her be and not ruin what she is doing, Mike said. To think you would be this uncaring, Mike. She fought the same battles as you and went through the same stress, even more. She is not a frontline fighter, but she still had to fight and win. She must have been under a ton of pressure. It's a good thing she isn't completely burnt out. Yet now you want to place all the work on her while you sit and do nothing. I do know how to cook. I took my time to learn, but even if I didn't know how to, I can't just sit down and watch her, Silva said. His argument was so sound that Mike had no comeback, he just kept quiet. All right, since Silva seems confident in his skills, would you mind him assisting you, Roxy? Quinn asked. Roxy looked at Silva for a brief moment and shook her head. I don't have an issue with that, she responded. Silva started helping her. She was making porridge. He made sure to stand out of her way and only help her. He was so efficient in helping her that all she needed to worry about was the pot on the fire. Whatever she needed, she didn't have to ask, he already had it prepared and waiting. At one point, she stopped thinking about anything else and just stretched out her hand when she needed something, and he would give her exactly what was needed. Mike watched this while fuming. He knew Silva was up to something. He felt like he was close to understanding, but yet he could not understand. Their intelligence was worlds apart. Quicker than expected, the food was done, and they all ate. Their reactions let Silva and Roxy know that the food tasted great. Silva was happy because his level 1 was complete. It may not be enough yet, but he planted the seed, and now he had to water it. This time he would hit Mike so hard that Mike would stop messing with him. After a full meal and rest, the party headed deeper inside the labyrinth. When they went deeper, they saw a large hole with a path leading downwards. This should be the way to the second floor of the labyrinth. We should take a bit to ensure we are in top condition before we head into that place, Quinn advised. While the others sat around resting, Silva sat at the edge of the hole, staring deep into it. He felt a very subtle energy coming from it, but he couldn't say what it was. As they rested, 2 parties came by. They looked like they weren't from the town. Both parties stopped when they saw Quinn's party. Both parties consisted of 6 people, and they were fully armed with swords and staves. They were the perfect image of a party, and they seemed to know that fact, so they moved with pride. Both parties left soon after and headed inside the hole, disappearing. We should head in as well, Quinn said and got up. They went into the hole as well. Roy lit up a flame to guide them. The path was slim, and one wrong move would send you to the bottom. They didn't know the depth, but it was risky no matter how you looked at it. They continued their path for 10 minutes and finally made it to the bottom. As soon as they landed, they could hear the sounds of battle. They rushed to the scene of the battle and saw the 2 parties battling a chimera. What the hell is wrong with this labyrinth? How can it switch from goblins to a fucking chimera? Rock said.